Hello, hello, welcome, good afternoon. Welcome everyone to the Military Women's Memorial. I'm Matt Leifer. I am the Director of Visitor Experience and Programs here. My pronouns are he and him, and I am so excited to welcome everyone for our program today. This program is part of our larger Summer with the Arts series that we've done in partnership with Uniting Us, and you've hopefully been able to see some of the wonderful artwork that we have on display. We have some upcoming program days on July 24th where we'll be exploring performing arts, which I'm not gifted in, so this is nervous for me up here. Thank you. But as part of that, we will have a wonderful featured artist talk that day at 1 o'clock, as well as a variety show with stand-up comedy and storytelling from the Armed Services Arts Partnership at 3 o'clock that day. So I encourage you to check out our website as part of the larger series that we have. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that the overall Summer with the Arts is being presented by OptumServe. Make sure to get that plug in there, of course. But today we are so excited to partner with the Community Building Artworks for this project. Our mission here at the Memorial is to honor and tell the stories of women who have served, past and present. And this project really helps to show those stories, all of the different stories that women have in our armed services. So I'm so excited to present this program to you guys today. And to talk a little bit more about that, I'm going to have Seema come on up from CBOS. So come on up. Thank you much.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm Seema Reza. I am the CEO of Community Building Artworks. We are a nonprofit that got our start in military hospitals, and the spine of what we believe is that community is necessary, and that at the heart of community is communication. At the heart of communication is knowing what it is that you contain. And writing and art making are the best ways that I know of, both figuring out what it is we contain and communicating it to the people around us so that they can know us authentically and know why we're weird and maybe feel inspired to tell us why they're weird. And I believe that's what community is. A huge thank you to Matt Leifer, to the Military Women's Memorial for commissioning this project and helping us sort of bring it together and present it to all of you. Our reception sponsors, the Elizabeth Dole Foundation, Wear Blue, Run to Remember, the Rosalind Carter Foundation, and the Modern Military Association of America, whose CEO, Jen Dane, is a participant in this project and one of the most connecting and generous people in the VSO space. So if you don't know her, you should. Woohoo! I also want to take a moment to acknowledge the virtual audience that is here with us. This is being live streamed via YouTube, and one of the weirdest things this past year has been having friends that you can only see this much of. Very, very dear friends in a box. I felt a lot of sort of challenge around like what's going to happen. How will we take our programs online? We've been doing this work within military health spaces. We're in San Antonio to develop programs there and literally came home on March 9th and never left our homes again. But one of the things that we learned from turning to Zoom, huge thanks to technology, is that it's actually been better in some ways and more inclusive than in-person events have been in the past. And so we've seen a lot of faces of people who maybe need the closed captioning or maybe don't feel safe leaving their home. And that's been a really beautiful thing. And as we consider the return to quote unquote normal, I really want to center in our planning, and maybe for all of us here, that maybe normal wasn't working for everyone, or the old normal wasn't working for everyone, and there's another way forward. This program today brought together 9 military women from across the country. And our participants, I'm just going to name them briefly because you'll get to know them pretty well in just a moment, are Jennifer Anthony, Jennifer Dane, Jules Sohn, Eliria Stanley, Aissatou Sunjata, Lourdes Tiglao, and Sharon Williams, who are here with us today, which is like extraordinary. And 2 who could not be here today, but who you will meet and are joining us by the live stream, I hope, are Belina Marquez and VR Small. If I had to explain this whole thing to you, it wouldn't be very good. I think it'll speak for itself. So I'm going to be quiet and we'll watch the recap video together and then hear directly from the participants. Over 2 days in May 2021, 9 military women from across the United States of America gathered virtually to weave their stories into a collaborative performance. The following is a behind-the-scenes look at the creative process that led to their collaborative poem, More Than One Story. I'm Seema Reza. I'm the CEO of Community Building Artworks. I often say that like 90% of my job is undoing whatever high school English teachers do to us around poetry and our right to respond to it. So if you don't feel like you're a writer, you don't feel like you're a poet, you don't feel like an artist, you don't have to be. That's not a requirement here. This workshop is called More Than One Story. Today is about discovery, about getting comfortable with one another, and thinking about what we might want to co-create together.
It was kind of out of the blue where I got this a message from Seema on LinkedIn. And so for me, I'm coming here with an open, mind and heart. I love poetry, so I'm excited.
I'm dialing from Fayetteville, North Carolina, Fort Bragg. Even though I live in a military town, I am one of the old guards. So that's why I joined, to actually be with other women who have also been in whatever branch of military.
What I'm kind of hoping for in this particular project is that the representation of underrepresented minorities, as well as just women in general within the military, is like, it's so vast and diverse, and like one voice doesn't encapsulate it all because we come from different phases of life. We are coming from different backgrounds, sometimes different countries. Like me, I was an immigrant. And I think that this particular project is a really super creative way to try to bring those voices together in a way that hopefully shows how much we have in common, as well as celebrating what we have that's unique about us.
I am hoping for and expecting from this workshop just that camaraderie that comes with having people share of themselves with you and knowing that we are all coming from a military background.
I served in the Air Force for 20 years and I retired in the summer of 2018. I took a 6-day transition from combat boots and camouflage to a business suit in a boardroom. And so what began to happen to me is this narrative that I'd created, right? E9, fancy job, fancy title. The reality that all that was just bullshit and it didn't match how I felt on the inside started to surface. My feelings and what I experienced in my transition that I was in no way, shape, or form prepared for happens to a lot of women.
The thing that I would like to ask you today is what was your favorite game to play as a child? I asked you to write about that, about these little people, because I want to hold them top of mind. Try to look at them, this younger version of yourself, from the outside as your adult version, and tell them what is so cool about them. Just tell them what you see that they have that will serve them in the rest of your life?
I actually wrote at the very beginning, I wasn't ready for this. The idea of my younger self meeting my current self, and to hear that I am what they will one day be. I'm picturing when I was just 10, I'm still trying to find where I fit into the world. No brothers or sisters, all of my cousins hundreds of miles away and 20 years older. Not in one world or in another, but in between. I'm not sure why. Why couldn't I find peace? Why couldn't I make friends? Why did people not want to play with me? What was wrong with me? And to show him, her, them, I don't even know how to address my younger self. She can't see it now, but she's going to have so many futures. She'll be a soldier, a combat veteran, a leader, a comforter, a healer, so many things. And all of them her. She's stronger than she knows. The bullies she encounters now, they don't go away, but they never defeat her. She's stronger than all of them. She'll be able to love and be loved and play with everyone she wants to.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for allowing yourself to go there.
It wasn't an allowing, I was called to go there. It came completely unbidden, but then because I've never looked back at myself, as you said, from the younger perspective, precisely probably because there is such a difference, and there's like, oh my gosh. But to do that and to talk to that 10-year-old, oh wow. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank your younger self, too. Jennifer Dane.
I wrote it like how I would write a letter to anybody. So I wrote it to myself. I said, you are weird, kind, aspirational, and so much more than you'll ever know. You may feel trapped and unloved, but you are so loved and so cared for. Your struggles with religion, weight, and fitting in will make you a kinder and more compassionate human. You can be your own person and take what you love about your childhood and life and leave what you don't want. An American Airman is who you are. You're a wingman, leader, and warrior. So.
Thank you.
One thing I'm working really hard on is to now speak as me, during my military service, I was taught and trained to speak a certain way, to act a certain way, to carry myself a certain way. There were things you said, there were things you didn't say.
Sharon, if I may, you're right. We are taught to speak a certain way. And from my perspective of transitions, we repress and suppress ourselves down so much.
Yep.
And so stepping out of the boots,
yep.
It is very empowering because, especially if we've been in long enough where the service has consumed us,
yep.
And then to rediscover who we are probably is nowhere close to where we were when we raised our hands.
Absolutely.
And so who are we now?
Now.
And to figure out and to have the freedom to figure it out and to be who we are.
Those of you who shared, that was beautiful. For those of you who listened, that was essential too. Super essential. These children that we wrote to, versions of them still exist. There's work for us to do still. So these are the stakes, and I want us to think about that as we move into our very, very, very last bit here. So I'm going to send you an email with the prompt in it. And what we're going to do is everyone's going to respond to each of the lines. Because then what we're going to do is I'm going to take all of the lines and reconfigure it so that they're all blended. Your stories are next to each other instead of individual. And so that will be our exhibition. Our final installation will be this, more than one story but I have an artistic question for you. I had written out the prompt as I am. Most of these are individual I ams. I wonder, what if you said we were instead? Or we are, like both you and your younger self. You like that?
I'm almost, I think, moved to maybe you are. When we were doing the writing exercise of speaking to our younger selves, we weren't speaking to our younger selves as I am. We were speaking to our younger selves as the wise person that we are now.
I really like Lourdes's idea of you are also, because if there are any young women that are then watching this, them being able to see themselves in us and in the variety and diversity of who we are just in this group, I think it gives them a chance to maybe claim a part of that position where they may identify with the younger selves that we are trying to speak to. And I think that would be a really cool second order effect of this.
I feel incredibly privileged to have been a part of this. And it just reminds me of like your power comes back a little bit when you get to hang out in a room full of women who have been there and done that, right? Like a little bit of my badass comes back.
That's what it is. That's the feeling. Like I'm revived in that part of me that was like a fierce, like combat boots on the ground, like digging around, doing all the fun stuff that I haven't really been in touch with in my day-to-day life. And so refilling that cup up and remembering like, oh yes, that too was me.
Is getting your voice, finding your voice again. And I think women veteran have often not had a voice, even when they were serving. And then when they become veterans, it's like you're shadowed. Because in this society, when we say veteran, we don't mean women. That's not the first thing that comes to mind. It's not even the second thing that comes to mind. And we have to get our nation to that point that when they say veteran, they see that full spectrum of the individuals that serve to protect our nation.
I definitely think it's important to have these stories and these voices, because I think one of the big things that we see a lot of times is that about visibility, right? And so I think this is so critical, especially right now.
As different and unique and varied as our experiences and, our childhoods, our upbringing, all of that is, when we speak and we share, there's just so much commonality there. You can just feel it. You're like, yeah, I understand. Yeah, I hear you. I got you. I know exactly what you mean.
This space has been just extraordinary. You are all so extraordinary. Please welcome to the stage Sharon Williams, Aissatou Sanjata, Eliria Stanley, Jennifer Anthony, Jen Dane, Jules Sohn, and Lourdes Tiglau. Hi, guys. I would love, first of all, thank you for being here, for being there. We're often in places as part of ourselves, but you all showed up as your whole selves within maybe 5 minutes, it seems that you made this decision like, okay, I'm in, I'm going to do this, I'm going to tell the truth. And most of you didn't know each other before and met for the first time today here. I would love if, and whoever feels called to speak first, just go ahead, I won't tell you. But if you wouldn't mind saying your name and branch of service, just so people have some orienting. And just to talk about what that experience was like, what it was like coming in, and maybe, how you made that decision to be so damn brave.
I'm Jen Anthony. I served in the Air Force for 20 years. So I enlisted in 1998 and I retired in 2018. I'm going to take a clue out of Brene Brown's book and just pause for a minute and name it. So we all were in a very safe space, and SEMA has the gift to create that. And now we are here with you. And that feels a little different. And so I'm just going to name that right out of the gate. And I'm so glad to be with all of you here. The reason I participated in this is because SEMA made me. So she is an amazing human being, but this is not something I would have done on my own. And frankly, it was wildly uncomfortable. So we were together for 2 evenings. And on both of those evenings, I tried to think of all of the million reasons why I couldn't attend. It was very hard, but what I would submit to you is that for the first time in a long time, I found myself in a space with other women who were like me. And the moment that happened, then I realized I was in a safe space, and it became, it was healing. It was healing to spend that time with my sisters in arms. So thank you, SEMA, you're amazing.
I suppose it's my turn now. My name is Jennifer Dayt. I served in the Air Force from 2010 to 16. And the reason, or how SEMA got me to come to this, is she goes, Jan Anthony's coming. And Jen and I had worked together at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base in Tucson, Arizona. I remember the first time I met her, I was a little airman, just joined the Air Force, and I looked up to her, and I was like, I want to be like her. And it's kind of funny how the universe brings us back to each other, because it's been over 10 years or 11 years now, and we're in this space together. And so for me, getting to be in a place where other women are, that you see common experiences, it's really, really powerful. And it's a place that being the executive director of the Modern Military Association of America, it's a place that I advocate for. And at the end of my advocacy, I'm also a woman veteran. And so it's really important for me to come together with other folks to just share, because I do have a lot more healing to do for my time in the service. But it's always wonderful to get together and to talk about our experiences, name those experiences, and know that we're not alone. And like Jen said, SEMA, I call her like the human can opener, because she can open you up to so many feelings, and it's better than a therapist. I got to tell you that. She's gotten so much out of me. And it just provides us healing in this wonderful, wonderful, beautiful experience that you can't get anywhere else. You can go so many places, but whenever you go to her programs, any of them, you experience something that's so magical, so life-changing, and we had never known each other. Well, except for Jen and I, we had known each other, which made it feel a lot safer for me. But I just can't, Seema, I just can't thank you enough for all you've done, and for everyone else for being vulnerable and open, because with all the stories, it has led so much to my healing and my growth as a woman veteran, and has given me another opportunity to say I am in the right place right now, and it is our time, and we have to continue to be badass.
Is this working? Okay. Hi, I'm Sohn. I'm a United States Marine Corps veteran. I'm the one who randomly got a message on LinkedIn from Seema. And I sat there and I looked at it thinking, should I respond to this? Because I get random stuff in LinkedIn, okay? So I was like, okay, is this like a real thing? And for me, I currently work at the Los Angeles Police Department, but, I kind of, I was in the Marine Corps. Actually, I flew into Reagan National yesterday, and that was actually the same airport I landed into to go to Quantico, Virginia, and I went to OCS. So this is back in 1999. So this place is very familiar to me, and it was very, I had to kind of reach back and think back to my time in the military as a veteran. And I really appreciate Seema for bringing together this space, and also all these incredible women. Like I really, it takes a lot for me to think back to the time that I was, back when I was younger. I had better knees. I'm broken now. Thanks, Marine Corps. But for me, it was an opportunity to just really think back to why it's so important to have these spaces and these voices, because I think. One of the things that was said was about when you hear the term veteran, you usually typically think of a male person. You don't think of a 5-foot-tall Korean American, daughter of immigrants, being in the Marine Corps. And so, it was a great honor to be a part of this group and to actually share and be vulnerable. I mean, I think that was one of the things that was hard because, during the time we had these 2 sessions. Since I'm still working, I'm working for the LAPD, like I was getting all these text messages at work, and I was trying to focus on this, and I was thinking to myself, the work continues, right? We're still representing in wherever we're at, wherever we walk, whatever space that we take into, we have to represent, and we continue to represent communities that are oftentimes don't have that voice, and so I feel very privileged to share this stage with all of you.
Great segue, because I'm a Filipino immigrant as well. Came here to the United States, and I couldn't even speak the language. So when you talk about hurdles, well, first, I was serving in the Air Force, 96, oh my God. 96 to 2007, and loved every minute of it. I was in military medicine. And then when I got out, I went into the humanitarian sector doing disaster response, again, another area that's very male dominated. So one of the, I think, experiences that I just remember that rings throughout is that I always felt like you can't show the cracks. You have to always be on. You always have to look like you are in control of everything around you. And the experience with this workshop really allowed that space to be vulnerable and that be okay. So when we're talking about more than one story, it's also more than one facet of us as women. We're more than just a veteran, more than just a daughter or a mother, a wife, spouse. It's all of these things, and we were allowed to explore all of it. And I just thank Seema for providing that space to be vulnerable and to show us and have us show up with our whole selves.
Okay, I think I got it. Hi, my name is Aissatou Sanjata, and I served from 1979 to 1982. And how I got here was I am a participant in a workshop that Seema holds on Friday, and she has the controls to mute you. So I decided that I would be a part of this because I didn't want to be muted. I think what I loved about this is we were online, we didn't know each other, we were from different branches, and yet we gelled. That sense of camaraderie came, it was born and remained there for the whole 2 days. In fact, many of us are from different places. I live in Fort Bragg, and I actually took Amtrak to get here, so I have to meet all of the women that are here. So I really appreciate it. And like I said, we're not all Army, so I wanted to participate to see what the other ladies had to say and what would be brought out of me.
hard to follow me, it's hard to follow them. I don't even remember exactly how I got connected to this. My name is Eliria Stanley, and I am active duty Army. I've been serving for 18 years, and since 2003. And I remember just looking, it looked like a very interesting workshop. And then I got online and joined in, and I recognized Jennifer. Well, I did. You're well known. I also recognized you. I'd heard of you and admired you from your work in the Air Force. I wear an Army uniform, but I am a huge Air Force fan. But they wouldn't take me. I currently serve in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, and so I flew in to be here, and this is an amazing event to be at as a transgender woman, to be here, to be part of this, to be welcomed by all my fellow sisters, without question, is so powerful. And I never saw any of this coming. I never saw being at the Women's Memorial as a child. Then again, never saw myself as a combat veteran or anything else. I am so touched to be here, to hear all of my sisters' stories, to see them, and new lifelong friends. As we came together, as has been said, we were strangers, complete strangers with different backgrounds. Some are from the Marine Corps. What can you do there? I love service rivalry. And one of the neat things about being in the military is that no matter where you come from, no matter which service you're in, or when you serve, whether you're currently serving or not, there is this bond that connects you, and you instantly feel that bond where you have that shared experience. Even okay, I don't know, maybe Seema likes to mute people. No, but it's, even if your service is separated by decades, you're still part of the one common bond. And we felt that immediately, so much that it connected us, whether it's being military, being women, participating in Seema's madness. It was quite an experience, and I treasure it and am blessed to have been part of it. Thank you, Seema.
I told you, it's really hard to follow that. I just love to hear Eliria speak, and I had said, after the 2 days, I was like, when I grow up, I want to have that voice. I want to learn to speak like Eliria. My name is Sharon Williams. I am an Army veteran. I, too, like the others, I met Seema at Fort Belvoir. She was teaching a writing class, and as many of the others here have said, Seema has a real talent for bringing, words out of you, and, almost demanding sometimes that, you open up. So, she came to me, emailed me, I believe, and, her workshops are just great. One of the reasons that when I do have the opportunity, I participate in something with Seema is because in the workshops that I've done with her, just like this one, it's a safe space for me. And that is what I found in participating with these women. Sometimes people want you to tell your story, but it's not always easy to tell your story. It's not always a safe space to tell your story. And, for me, this forum and Seema's workshop provides a place where I can be vulnerable, yet I feel safe. And I sit here, collectively with my sisters, and the word that always comes to mind with me is commonality. We come from across the country. We are, different ranks. We are officer and enlisted. We are amongst all of the different branches. Our stories and experiences are so varied, But again, in so many instances, they are so common. We can sit and we can listen and easily understand what our sister may have experienced, having walked sometimes, in those same shoes. So again, ladies, it is an honor and a privilege to sit here with you in the sisterhood of camaraderie and having made new lifelong friends and colleagues. And, again, Seema, thank you so much for bringing us together and all that you do, because you are blessed in your ability to help other people share and tell their stories. Thank you.
Thank you all. I so super appreciate all of you and all that you said. And I'm thinking about, the title of the workshop was More Than One Story, because so often when you're a marginalized person, and in all of these intersecting ways, that we're marginalized in different spaces that we're in, but particularly for all of you as military women, there's this added pressure to speak for all military women, or all immigrant military women, or all Black military women, or, all of these things. And so More Than One Story means that. But it also, one of the things that really struck me as we sat together is the differences in your sort of proximity to your veteranness, right? So Eliria is still serving, Sharon is a very recent veteran, and some of you have been out for much longer. And this idea that where we lose a lot of people from the active duty space into veteran, into the VA system, right? We just lose track, particularly of veteran women. In that moment when you're transitioning out, there's this idea that, oh, my story's over. And each of you has just had an extraordinary other story, right? Parallel as you're living your life as a service member, but then afterwards, right, there's all this new stuff happening. And I wondered if maybe one or two of you might have some advice for someone who's staring down the ending of active service and entering into the veteran space. Yeah, speak to Eliria, everyone.
Yes, please, because I'm retired.
We had a moment to look at the guest list, and we suspect that there may be women here who came to be with us because they served, or maybe women here that are, like Seema said, on the brink of becoming a veteran. August will be 3 years since I retired. And I did all the transition things, the workshops and the transition classes. I started preparing 18 months out. I was the model transition member. Here's what was missing is that what I thought transition meant was finding a job on the other side. And that is not at all what it meant for me. And I would submit that's not what it means for anyone leaving the service. I needed someone to tell me that I was going to experience a significant amount of grief and loss, and that it was going to be immediate, that I was going to out-process at MPS, and I was going to drive off the base, and the world was going to keep turning because it didn't matter that I was gone. And I didn't take time to stop and process that. So I would say to you that was a mistake for me. Also, when I was in my uniform, I didn't have to explain to people that I served. Like when I looked like that, I didn't have to say anything. I just walked into a room. Yep. But when you take that off and you look like us and you tell someone you served, immediately you move to defending that because there's a disbelief. You don't look like a veteran. You don't sound like a veteran. I didn't know women served in the military. I needed someone to tell me those things before I shed my uniform. And so 3 years in, almost 3 years in, and what I would share is that this is a journey. It's a journey. I thought I'd land a job and be good, and that is certainly not the case. However, I think one really important thing that, Seema, you're onto is that when you land in a community like this as you transition, finding other women who have been there and done that, they're ahead of you. Go get them and connect with them so that you do have someone to look you in the eyes and say, hey, this is going to be way harder than writing a resume. And you did that for us. You're good, sister. You're good. We gotcha.
So, plus 100, everything she said. I got out earlier than you. So back in 07, TAP was basically 1 week long, just like session after session. And we didn't really even touch anything about psychologically breaking that bond. And much like what John said, it's transition to them is like, okay, you're changing from this job and now you're going to go find another job. But when you have spent years indoctrinated in a particular culture, in a particular community, people treat you a certain way because you are in that community like 24/7. It's hard to make that mental mind shift. I too thought I was a model transitioner. I was in military medicine, and I'm thinking, okay, so I've heard enough like bad stories, and for people who are going to be transitioning, I know that we're very far ahead in the digital space with medicine, but get paper copies. I don't care what they say. They will say they won't lose your records, just get paper copies. See? Trust but verify. So in my particular transition, I thought I was ready. Had a job, kind of lined up already, but my particular transition was rocky. Part of it was just finding that new identity, like one, figuring out who I was before the military and reconciling that with who I am now, well, at the time when I was transitioning. And I think one of the things that really helped me, speaking about community, was when I started volunteering with Team Rubicon, which is a disaster response organization, of finding that community of veterans. Again, very male-dominated, but I did come from an era of vac space, so kind of an adrenaline junkie at times. Finding that community that you can bond with. People say find your passion, but really it's more, to me, it's like find your purpose. If you didn't have to get paid tomorrow, what do you want to be doing? What drives that fire? And I think that's going to help you weather through the crap that life throws at you. And when life throws you crap, make sure you have a circle of community that you can fall back to.
I'd just like to share a story. For anybody that's transitioning, don't be afraid of the VA. Jen spoke about the uniform. And so I transitioned out of the Wounded Warrior Battalion at Fort Belvoir. And when my last day on active duty prior to retirement, I was in my uniform, boots, uniform. Everybody's walking around the hospital and, young soldiers and, airmen, sailors, everybody, civilians. And I retired in November, and my first appointment at the VA was in December. So I believe when I went to the VA, I was either in PTs or my civilian clothes. And when I walked into the VA, I will be completely honest, I started to cry. I reported to the clinic because it was just it was like night and day. I went from mobile, young, active, moving to a different, older environment. And I was like, oh my gosh, is this where I am now? The wheelchairs and the scooters and, many of the men. And I was like, oh my gosh, is this what my life is going to be like? But again, like I said, the VA is a facility to, you've got to enroll into the VA, and the VA, definitely offers, some good services. And they are getting better in the services, I believe, that they offer to women. But it was definitely a shock in taking off that uniform and going into that VA environment. So it's a little story. It's a funny story. And she talked about the uniform.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to piggyback on what you were saying on like the transition. So I had a very poor transition. I didn't go to any of those classes or anything like that. So actually, I served a tour of duty in Iraq in 2005. So out of the reserve. So I spent active duty. I was on active duty in the Marine Corps from '99 to 2003. I went to grad school. My dad was happy about that. And then, but then I was recalled to active duty in 2005 to serve in Fallujah and Ramadi. And actually, there's a book here where you can see the people who've died in Operation Iraqi Freedom and Enduring Freedom as well. So take a look at the Hall of Heroes. But anyway, so my transition was poor because this was before. So when I was out processing from the reserves in 2005, they didn't have women's centers in the VAs. Okay, so I was walking around, people thought I was a nurse. Okay. So people were coming up to me going, hey, are you the nurse? And I'm like, I am trying to find where I'm supposed to go. But to speak to that, it's way better now. Because now that I go in and I can go to the VA and I have a space, so it's a lot better than it used to be. Like, trust me, like from '05 till now, like there are spaces that are there to give you a place to be and not feel like you're supposed to be the nurse and you're not, So that was kind of the feeling that I had when I was walking through the VA. But overall, I always tell people, like, at the end of the day, find the community that you feel comfortable in, right? Find that community and that space that will uplift you. But I think that's one of the things that I always tell people is, like, things are getting better.
Thank you. And I think that we can't understate the importance of your efforts collectively, and of course the women that came before you in making that and driving that and pushing us towards a better thing, so that there is a generation of women veterans that are like, what do you mean the VA is not good? It's, so I think we are going to unveil this video. So, over the 2 days, we did a lot of writing, sort of generative and discovery, and then we had some starting lines, which you saw us collaborate on how we were going to do that. And then everybody wrote their lines and recorded them. The very brilliant film editor, Amelia Bain, who's back there, Amelia Bain, cut it together, made the recap video, and she's just brilliant, and also made this final video. And while I appreciate all of your kind words about me, the truth of the matter is that art making itself is the magic. It's when we, I think we've sometimes forget that it's an epistemological tool. It's a tool for knowing that really mirrors consciousness. And that we sank in and did that work gives us what we're about to show you. So, and then we'll have a brief conversation and exercise afterwards. So we'll have the screen come down and you guys can go watch it. Thank you. Round of applause for these geniuses. Over 2 days in May 2021, 9 military women from across the United States of America gathered virtually to weave their stories into a collaborative performance. This poem is addressed to the women they came from, the women they were, the women they are becoming, and the women who will walk the trail they blazed.
You are limitless. You are gold.
You are fearless.
You are kind and compassionate.
You are bold.
You are a survivor and a provider.
You're needed and wanted and noticed when you're not on your own.
You are the mirrors and windows that the next generation of women need to see.
You come from women whose fear never stopped them.
Women who are trailblazers.
You come from women whose backs were routinely bent, but never, ever broken.
Whose hands are covered in dirt and calloused.
You come from women whose mouths are sassy.
The higher the hair, the closer to God.
Women who were told they couldn't, and then they did.
You come from women whose tears stretched from the East Coast to the middle of our nation.
Women who are full of grit and grace.
Women who use hardships and tragedy as lessons.
The strength is in their compassion.
Women who can't be held back.
Whose backs have been whiplashed and sunburnt.
You're generations of women woven.
You are generations of women who fight for equality and diversity.
Generations of women who chose to do the hard thing.
Women who can't stop moving forward.
Who have always hungered for more.
Women who can't surrender.
Whose history is still to be written.
You come from women whose purpose is to break glass ceilings.
You are the first to pave your own path.
You are the first to wade into the waters.
The first to go to college.
The first to lend an ear, a voice, a helping hand.
The first to speak out for the voiceless.
The first.
The first.
The first.
To see so many first. Too many firsts.
You are trying to unlearn.
You are trying to unlearn.
You're trying to unlearn the rules, the expectations of what you're supposed to be.
You are trying to unlearn
being kind to yourself.
The heteronormativity of what a woman should be.
You are trying to unlearn generational dysfunction.
The stories your brain tells you of yourself.
You are trying to unlearn that your life does not matter.
You're trying to unlearn that your voice doesn't matter.
You are a seller whose commitment to service is as deep and wide as the oceans you sail.
An airman is a human that lives by integrity, service before self, and excellence in all we do.
A Marine is selfless, courageous, bold, and badass.
A soldier is a lot like women, a part of a continuous stream of others.
A soldier does more by 9 than most people do all day.
You've worn many uniforms, but still stand out.
You put on a uniform not to be the same, but to be different.
You put on the uniform.
You put on the uniform.
You put on the uniform.
Put on the uniform.
You put on the uniform.
You put on the uniform, felt part of something greater.
You put on the uniform and taught others how to maneuver through the minefields of death, destruction, loss, and pain.
You put on the uniform and you feel the pride.
You put on the uniform and defended this country with your life.
You are courageous.
You've been othered, shamed, disempowered.
You've been a small, fragile thing, shielded under mom's and grandma's strong arms.
You are resilient and fierce.
You've been soldier, mother, wife, military widow, veteran.
You are badass.
You've been hurt and mistreated.
You are a survivor of abuse and immense grief.
You are a warrior from a line of fighters.
You've been beaten down.
You have been to combat.
You are a complex rump shaker, but also a history maker.
You are a woman warrior wielding resilience.
Ikaw ay babae.
Girl, you're fantastic and alive. You're braver than you know.
We are more than one story.
We have 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 more than one story.
We are more than one story.
We have more than one story to tell.